Deadbeat brother steals my car, crashes it, and gets the night in jail he deserves.
Why do deadbeat brothers be doing this?
Why don't you make a sick beat like this?
Oh, yeah.
I'm 21, have an older brother, Dave, that has always been a jerk to me. There's only a 1-year gap between us, but he liked to beat me up when we were kids, and he always acted like anything that was mine was also his. He was also somewhat of a golden child, not in that he was gold, but that OP's parents liked Dave more than OP. And that made me miserable. So no surprise I moved out at 18. My uncle is now a retired police officer, and he took me in after I left home. He even hooked me up with a decommissioned Crown Vic, and I absolutely love the car. Yeah.
As a former Crown Vic owner.
It's a very regular car. I don't know why, but Dave hated the fact I had that car. He drove 3 beater cars into the ground while my Crown Vic kept chugging along. Well, after his 3rd beater finally died when he drove it into a pole, he asked to borrow my car. Like, if a friend is like, hey, bro, I just totaled my car and I totaled the other 2 cars, I need to use your car, I'm going to be like, I had a bad feeling and said I wasn't going to do that. He called me entitled, and he said he needed the car to get to work. I told him to take the bus because I know how he drives, and my Crown Vic is off limits. My parents called me after that and told me to just lend him my car. I said I won't, no matter what they say. OP's sticking his ground.
Shut up, mama.
I rely on the car and need it as well since it's my personal transportation. Dave wasn't the only one in the world with a job he needed to get to. My uncle congratulated me for standing up to them and gave me a high five.
Yeah.
A few days later, when I got off of work, the car wasn't where I parked it. It was missing. I called my brother's cell, but he didn't pick up. Then I called my parents and asked if he took my car. They denied it. So I said, okay, I guess I'm going to call the cops to see who stole my car. And then they admitted he borrowed the car.
Oh my God.
Because he needed it. I told them he better bring it back right now or I'll have the police looking for him. They called me a jerk and then phoned Dave to bring the car back. He showed back up in the parking lot in my car 20 minutes later, and I demanded to know how he stole my car. And he held up a set of police Crown Vic keys that he'd bought online. Apparently some were made universal, which means you can open any Crown Vic in the world. He just exposed all of our audience and grew a new breed of car thieves.
In the United States, there's a Crown Vic emergency. Some trace back the spur in this new development back to OKOP.
I told him if he ever stole my car again, I'd have him arrested. Then he had the audacity to ask me for a ride home. I told him he made me wait in December cold after stealing my car, so the fair thing to do was to just walk home. He called me a jackbutt before I drove away. After that, my uncle installed a tracking device in the car. When Christmas Day came, I was celebrating with family like every year. The roads were cold and icy, so I had to be very careful while driving. Dave borrowed my car, during the Christmas party. Apparently, he decided he was going to go pick up a friend and figured I wouldn't notice. But OP did something before, right? I pulled up the tracking app and saw that he was a few miles away because now he has that tracking in the car.
Right.
Then I called his cell to yell at him. And everyone at the party saw this and asked what the heck was going on. I said, Dave stole my car again. And my uncle confirmed it wasn't the first time. Dave told me over the phone to screw off and he'd be back soon. I said he'd better not have been drinking, but he just hung up on me. While I was watching the tracker app, the dot stopped and didn't move for a while. Soon, we got a panic call from Dave asking for help. He'd crashed the car because he couldn't handle the icy roads and he wasn't used to rear-wheel driving vehicle. So we piled in my parents' minivan and followed the tracker. We found Dave by the road and my Crown Vic, my crown jewel's nose deep in a snow-filled ditch.
No.
My uncle was furious as it was formerly a car from his police department. And I was mad as hell at Dave for stealing my car again. My parents wanted me to let it go. This is the second time. You let it go the first time. You're asking me to let it go again?
When does this stop, guys?
Yeah, bro. But I said enough was enough and I'm going to call the police. Dave begged me not to because he really had been drinking before he set off and he'd get a DUI. I said he was going to pay me back for the damn car or I'd sue him. As luck would have it, the police were aware of the accident and were driving in to check on the scene. Someone else had called him, I guess.
Uh-huh.
My parents tried to say that I was the one driving the car and they were just there to help me. I said that wasn't true, and my uncle backed me up. In fact, one of the cops that was there recognized my uncle and they had a chat. Then they went to Dave and asked to see his license, which they found out was suspended after he crashed his previous car.
Dave, why, Dave?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Then they breath tested him. He wound out with cuffs slapped in his wrists while my mother was crying and begging the police not to take him away. But the other officer just said that she and my dad could get arrested too for lying to the police. That shut my parents up. So we piled back in the minivan. The Christmas party was ended early, and my parents drove me and my uncle home since he rode with me. They didn't say much to each other the whole drive and just sped away as soon as we were out of their van. They nearly slipped off the road themselves doing that. My brother was let out of jail the next day, and he looked so scared that he was practically crying. The cops there had roughed him up a bit while talking about prison and the crap they had seen go on there. Dave had actually pissed himself during that, and they let him take a shower. That's when my uncle started cracking up and revealed to us that his friends in the department never filed the DUI and just the charge for the suspended license. So basically it was like a prank.
Wow, they let him off easy.
They let him off
They
easy,
could
yeah.
have destroyed him.
Got him!
The ticket was about $600, and my uncle said he wanted it to teach Dave a lesson, which is a lesson Dave sorely needs. And this would be the one and only time he'd ever help. Dave then apologized to me and said he'd pay to have my Crown Vic fixed and would never touch it again. When it got pulled out of the ditch, the front end damage was actually minor. It needs a new front bumper, a headlight, and a grill. The damage was just superficial, thankfully. And my parents have pretty much glossed over the whole incident and act like it didn't happen. Dave gave me the extra Crown Vic keys he bought online, and he said that it's taught him a lesson that he'd soon not forget.